welcome to The Art of Life. I'm your host, Willow Chang. If you don't know by now, well, now you do. We broadcast live every Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. here in the heart of beautiful downtown Honolulu. And The Art of Life is always committed to bringing you interesting people, stimulating dialogue, differing opinions that may not necessarily be those of ThinkTech Hawaii, but solely the people on the show, including my guest today, Michael Hamilton, who wears many hats, although he may not have a hat on today. He is going to speak to us about the worlds of Chinese medicine, of Qigong, performing arts, maybe some sacred geometry. We'll just see where the wind blows and takes us on this wonderful eve of the summer solstice. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Willow.
Always a pleasure. So, as you know, we always start the show off asking our guests to tell us how they came to be. How did Michael Hamilton become the person you are today? Your foray into Chinese medicine, your travels, and your interests, whatever you feel like sharing with us.
Well, I came to be from my mother. Thank you. Thank you for giving birth to me. So, how did I get into Chinese medicine?
Chinese medicine. I always joke around and tell my friends that you're a Chinese person stuck in a white man's body. How did that come to be?
Yes, I have been told by one of my teachers that I have a strong Chinese spirit. At 3 years old, I used to get into the pots and pans and put big lids on my head and then get up on the rocking horse, and I guess I looked a little Mongolian.
Don't tell the Mongols that.
But at the time, when I was frolicking and in my childhood, as a 3-year-old or so, on the rocking horse, my mother was writing a paper on acupuncture.
Really?
Yes,
wow.
And I used it as a forward in my AccuSource text.
I did not know that. We learn all kinds of things here. Now, I want to let our viewers know that you're from the Show Me State. You're from Missouri, as my mother would call it. And was there a lot of Asian influences in this environment? Because I would assume, but you never should, that there probably weren't. That's why, to me, it seems so unusual.
Yes, it is quite unusual. There were absolutely no Asian influences on my life at the age of 3.
Right.
So I was actually made fun of as a child for looking Chinese. But
really?
I don't look Chinese now, do I?
I don't know. You're kind of an international man of mystery. You kind of morph into different looks,
yes.
Sometimes very pulling on the American Indian side and sometimes European. I can see maybe they might think you have like an almond-shaped eye.
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah. So tell us more.
Okay, so I guess we'll flash forward to about the age of 7.
Do you want a sound effect for that? Okay, we're at 7.
Getting lost in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching this old man paint bamboo calligraphy, and my family just kept walking through the crowd, and I decided to watch, and they realized that they lost me. And they're looking for me for an hour. And they finally found me, and
wearing the cloak of invisibility?
I even had cramps from the Chinese food I had for lunch, but it didn't even bother me because I was watching the strokes of the bamboo.
Interesting.
Old man, about 90 years old.
Who's crossed over now, for sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He could still be alive.
He could be an immortal.
Which is the goal of Taoism.
Exactly. Which we must come back to. But tell us, so they found you. Were you reprimanded? Did they scold you? Or did they cry? Or
I don't recall. All I recall is the bamboo strokes.
Fantastic.
The simplicity within the hustle and bustle of San Francisco.
And in hustle and bustle it does. So what's our next flash forward from 7?
Well, I guess high school I was practicing martial arts, which is a solo solo sport, which was different than team sports, of course.
It involves no ball whatsoever.
Yes, it's just focusing on self-improvement, and reading a lot of, I was reading Lao Tzu at the time,
Mm-hmm.
Comparing Greek history to Chinese history in my Western civilization classes. Always bringing in the Orient side of things.
Okay,
with
keep
my
that
work.
balance. Good.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the pursuit of martial arts because,
Right, which led to the healing arts.
yeah, I think some people, they emphasize the combative part of it because that's what they see. So when there's like vehicles like film, TV, movies, what have you, songs like Kung Fu Fighting, everyone thinks that it's about the strike and about the block. But clearly the root or the foundation of it, as you mentioned, was self-improvement, and it's also a centering practice. How do you feel that those components interact in your life? Like, I mean, I've heard it said that the purpose of training for martial arts is that you never have to actually get into any type of conflict in a physical way.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
Oh yes, it's more of, on that level, it's more avoiding situations, but on a deep internal level, it's meditation, and first of all, having the strength to sit for long periods of time to break through the mundane, or just using that state of mind in meditation. That's another aspect of the energy work.
So here you are, you're studying martial arts in high school. I'm curious, what was the bridge between that and then going into architecture? See, I did my homework.
Oh, well, architecture came before Chinese medicine.
Really? Okay, yeah. So tell us, okay, sorry.
So how did that happen?
Yeah.
Well, in high school, I was uncertain where I wanted to go to college, what I wanted to study, and I felt that architecture was the most well-rounded field that incorporated all of the sciences and arts together.
That's so interesting, because I'm sure most people, that would probably be the last thing they would consider. They'd probably just do liberal arts. I mean, what you're saying makes perfect sense to me, but I always thought that maybe there might have been that sacred geometry component, or maybe you excelled in math, or maybe you wanted to build things, or all of the above.
No, my arithmetic classes were mediocre in high school.
Don't show this to your mama.
But I excelled in the university level.
Okay. Do you think something contributed to that? Was it perhaps the learning environment, or the way it was taught, or different types of pressure or lack thereof?
I guess it was just interest more in the physical. You know, when the body's strong in youth, you tend to use it more. That's for me anyway.
I always think of, what is that ad on TV? A body in motion tends to stay in motion, where a body at rest tends to stay at rest. I think it's for, yes, I watch the evening news and they have all those drug ads intended for the senior set. So, and I've thought about that. It's like, oh, they're trying to imply inertia. Interesting. Yeah. So, you followed through with architecture, yes, no, maybe?
Yes, I completed the program, even though I was distracted by Taoist philosophy once again.
So tell me about this return, or this this perpetual interest in Taoist philosophy. And for those of you who may not be aware of it, let's back it on up to the root of it.
The root of Taoist philosophy?
Yeah.
I would have to say balance through contentment.
Is it strictly only the Tao Te Ching, or are there other supplemental things? I mean, I think people who have maybe a small working understanding always cite that literary work as the foundation, but it's a whole. I think when I learned about it as a child in school, we were told it was a religion, which I kind of bristle at, because I think it's much more of a philosophy or a way of life. What do you think?
It started off originally as a philosophy, form of indigenous shamanism to China, with the bone oracle code, you know, cracking turtle shells, any kind of ox scapulae, and putting it over the fire and reading the oracles from the cracks on the opposite side, yin or yang. But then it developed into a religion to counter the Buddhism that was entering into China.
I see.
around 0, the age of Christian 0.
So I'm curious, and forgive my ignorance, but that's why you're here. This reading of the bones and using that as an oracle, is that similar to I Ching? I mean, is it similar to chants or divination? I mean, and under what structure does it fall?
It is I Ching.
Okay. Can you explain I Ching? You're getting all kinds of education here. People are like, let me take a note here. So we'll put some things up on the Art of Life page on Facebook so you can follow up. But for those who are unfamiliar with I Ching, could you explain this kind of complex system?
Can try.
3 squiggles on a line.
I Ching, known as the Book of Change. It is a form of divination, which happens to be the cosmological foundation to all of the divination arts and medical arts in traditional China, like astrology, geomancy, palmistry, face reading, and then Chinese medicine, acupuncture, the theories specifically of the yin and yang and 5 elements, all coming out of the cosmology of the I Ching. I Ching is more accurately pronounced.
So, we're taking you back. This is like the Chinese puzzle, and one door leads into another and it opens up.
Right, it's a vast
it is.
void of just chaotic information coming at you from all directions.
So you heard the siren's call of Taoism while you were simultaneously studying architecture. What swayed you or persuaded you to just follow that flow?
Well,
because some people, they have the call, they hear it, they feel it, and they shut it down, and they don't follow through. But you did. So what was the element of change to make that happen?
You're asking very deep questions.
I know. Hang with us, people.
Disclosure is imminent. So, you're right. I was kind of in a rut in St. Louis. I was working 3 jobs. I was a roof inspector. I was an interior designer, and I was also doing CAD drafting at night for cranking out Toys R Us's and Circuit Cities.
Wait, what was the last thing? What drafts?
CAD drafting. It's computer-aided drafting.
Okay, I'm glad you said.
From 5 p.m. to 3 a.m.
I thought you were talking about cats, and I was confused.
Because they were so busy drawing, Circuit Cities and Toys R Us's and so forth. So
right.
It's just a way to make extra money, and learn.
It comes in handy in this life.
But when you're that young and you have all this ambition, but nowhere to go. So I decided to, actually I didn't decide anything. It was an accident, a near-death experience.
Oh, we're getting to the good stuff. This is new to me. Tell me about this.
Well, it's not, it's kind of a shocking event, and
we are in
disclaimer.
an FCC-free zone, so shock away.
Okay. It was a car accident.
Okay.
And I thought I was going to die. I was a pedestrian on the sidewalk. Another car T-boned another and hit a traffic light, and this big ball of metal, all I can remember, was coming right for me.
Wow.
My friend was standing right next to me, and then he disappeared. And I was still standing there, unscathed.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Wow. I'm curious, because I haven't had that type of experience, and I've heard many people's stories, but did you see the things that people often cite, like, oh, my life flashed, or, did things move in slow motion, or what was the experience for you? How did it register?
First, I saw the ball of metal, and I accepted my death.
Really? Just like that?
Accepted it.
Wow.
The next, I saw a flash of light, and it seemed like it lasted longer than a second, but I can't be sure. And it was just like wind passing by me.
Wow.
And then moments later, I went back and checked on my friend.
At what point from that incident was it a really obvious thing, like gee, I should make a change in my life, or life is very short. I think, I mean, or was it
funny
just...
question.
I know. And this is why you all love me.
Well, actually, no. I was sick for about 24 hours. I had nausea, and
Okay.
the way I evaluated that was
Is it like a purging of sorts, or just the
No.
stress from the situation?
maybe somewhat stress, but I felt that my friend was a lost soul, and he was inside of me.
Wow.
I was vomiting all night long.
Yikes. That was like some emotional ayahuasca there, friends.
No ayahuasca.
Yeah. Whew.
Yep.
Do you think of him during Qingming or Obon season or Dia de los
I
Muertos?
think of him often.
Yeah,
Yes.
I could imagine.
Yeah, but it was sometime after that, maybe weeks to months. Actually, I was already deciding to go to Hawaii at that time, but that was the thing that really awakened me
How
to
did you
drop
decide?
put away all of the things that don't really matter to my heart,
Hmm.
and just follow my heart.
So it's like a big spring cleaning.
It was a major reset.
Which, if I may look into the camera and talk to our viewers directly, this is a really essential thing. Hopefully it doesn't have to be something that is traumatic or dramatic, but it's essential, I think, at some point to kind of take your temperature, take your pulse, and assess what's working for you in your life, what stays, what goes. You know, don't be a hoarder of things that block the energy. I mean, it doesn't have to happen as a car crash. But it's something I think that everyone at some point, at least once in their life, encounters. But maybe if we did it with some frequency, it wouldn't have to be so cataclysmic. It could be a much easier process if we're always just kind of assessing what stays or what goes.
Yep.
He's
His
like,
name was Marty Lang, by the way.
Marty, we're sending
Lane.
some Marty Lane,
Marty.
like the movie.
Which movie?
There was a movie called Marty.
Oh, really?
I think it won like best film in 1953. I would ask Jay, but I think he's sleeping right now.
Oh.
So
Oh, he's
you
eating
just
outside.
you decided to move to Hawaii. So what was the impetus to come to Hawaii? Because this is another one of my pet
This is
interests is how do people decide to come to Hawaii, one of the most isolated places in the world, just the belly button of the planet, the middle of nowhere. What was the siren's call?
yeah. It's. I found myself in St. Louis, Missouri, drawing large murals of banyan trees
Okay.
with faces and bodies in them, like spirits coming out of the tree. And
Dryads.
they were dryads.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was drawing at the time. I didn't know what a banyan tree was.
Fascinating. Very. Like the ones at the zoo.
Yeah, and I guess I was just getting bored with the St. Louis scene, you know, just doing the same thing day after day, like drawing the circuit cities, seeing just the lifestyle of alcoholism all around me, you know, with Anheuser-Busch right down the street.
Oh, okay. I'm curious
Not to
because
mention
I am unfamiliar with the geography as I run my hand on the table here. The geography of St. Louis. Is it a flat place? You know, some places
it's
are...
mostly flat. It's hilly, and there's a river, Mississippi
Okay.
River, the Nile of North America.
Okay. Because I know that one of our colleagues, Dr. Little, Stephen Little, he said one of the things that kind of drove him a little batty in Chicago was that it's just so flat. And he found
Yeah.
that very, you know, metaphor for that existence. No offense to our Chicago peeps out there watching. You know, there's different strokes for different folks. Some places it's a better fit.
Yeah, Kansas is more flat, I would say.
Okay, good to know. So how did you make the leap from there to here? And I know you're in an airplane. I mean,
Yeah.
but what was it?
There were lots of things.
you
Lots
sell
of factors.
everything
I
and-
did. I sold everything, quit
Yeah.
all 3 jobs. It was, yeah, you know, getting tired of riding your bicycle without gloves, you know, things like that.
Okay.
But it was more of the pursuit, wanting to know, or pursuing the knowledge of Pacific Asian culture,
Okay.
all in one place. especially Taoism.
This is a great place for all of those things.
Yes.
Now, we have to take that small break. We often do.
Okay.
But when we come back, I want to find out about the origins of how you metamorphosized and made that all happen here in Hawaii. So, my guest is Michael Hamilton. This is The Art of Life. Don't go away. We're going to be back in about a minute.
Hello, I'm Martin Despang, and I'm the host together with the one and only Ali Yamashita, and our show is called Urban Transcendence. And Urban Transcendence is about identifying where we have a unique situation of a vibrant city in one of the most beautiful natural environments. So how these two can coincide, sometimes conflict, how they could find reciprocity in the 21st century is what we're excited about. And we're planning on bringing in a diverse body of guests, both from the arts and the science and the established and the wise and the emerging generation. So hope you will join us. We'll always be on Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m.
See, we're back. It was 45 seconds. I hope you got a chance to wet your whistle. Look at me, the art of life, that's right. So anyway, we are here discussing the art of life, Taoism, the creation story of Michael Hamilton, who is a very dear friend of mine, phenomenal acupuncturist and artist, creative person, and of course a bon vivant. And when we last left, our hero was leaving St. Louis and the world of 3 jobs and wearing gloves with bicycles and setting up circuit cities and Toys R Us. And you are making your way to Honolulu. Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, I decided to sell all of those possessions I had, the car, I guess that was it, and then quit the 3 jobs and invest in a plane ticket.
Okay.
And I brought a few things with me, and I had one friend, and I stayed with my friend for a couple of days. I stayed in a youth hostel. I even slept on the beach. And I decided if I wasn't going to find an architecture job in 2 weeks, I'd have to go back because I'd run out of money.
Oh, what a small window you gave yourself.
Well, that's all the car money could provide and the little savings I had.
Can you give us a point of reference? What year was it?
That there was a motorcycle trip that preceded the Hawaii trip, just to get all that out of my system.
Right.
Right.
Fascinating.
Before being isolated on the island, because I've heard about the island fever.
Rock fever. It's true. Is there a meridian on the body for rock fever? Maybe we need to design one.
Rock fever?
Yeah,
What
like
do you
island
mean?
fever. When you've got the
I
wanderlust.
would say that would be a form of irritability, which would be liver yin deficiency. So I treat the liver or tonify liver.
Wow. So you came here. Obviously, you stayed a lot longer than 2 weeks. So what happened?
Well, those 30 mailings paid off before I left, and I was interviewed and got the job on the interview. I wore a suit, and they told me that only lawyers and Bible salesmen wear suits in Hawaii. So
no one told it to Evan Dobell. That's
yeah.
a little old UH humor there for you.
I think maybe people may have thought I was some kind of lawyer walking around in there.
It's a shame. Can I just interject? I love me a sharp-dressed man. So if you gentlemen out there want to get into the haberdashery and suit up, and please don't talk to me about the heat. You know, we all have to deal with it. Granted, I'm wearing lace. I'm very air-conditioned. But the ladies do like a sharp-dressed man.
I'm
We're not
underdressed
immune
this
to
time.
the peacock. It will turn our heads if that's what you want. Sorry. So you got the job. But then you still ended up going into Chinese medicine. So how did you... I have a frog in my throat. Pardon me.
Oh, you want to drink some tea?
I think I shall.
May I drink some water?
Have a sip.
Thank you.
We're on the
with you.
slide here. Cheers. It's really important to stay hydrated. I'm going to use this as a
Indeed.
small PSA because we have beautiful weather and it's warm and it's sunny and that's jubilant and joyful. But if you're not hydrated, it's so easy to get dehydrated. And if you're thirsty, you're already there. Yeah.
And I recommend drinking out of glass bottles.
Okay, it's good to know.
Yeah. A drop of oregano oil.
Oregano oil.
Great antibiotic.
Okay, my earpiece is moving around. So tell us about, you did finally make it to Chinese medicine.
Yes. What were we talking? How
Well,
we
you were
made the
saying
jump?
because you
Okay, right,
you wore the suit and you got the job.
Right. So I was just during this time I was studying Tai Chi
Okay.
and Qigong, and that led me. I guess that was the transition into understanding more what was happening with me. I was feeling energy.
Right.
I wanted to understand the science of energy from the Chinese perspective.
So do the Chinese also believe that energy is never destroyed? I mean, it's just is it transferred into something else or moved?
Yes.
But so it's always present.
Energy and matter are the same. It's just part of the oneness. Energy is the yang, yin is the matter.
Okay. Take notes.
This is according to the Chinese cosmology, which goes back to the I Ching that we were talking about
Yes,
earlier.
it's all interconnected, isn't it?
Yes.
Fascinating. So you ended up going to school for all of this madness.
Yes, I was recommended to apply, so I did. Finished the
This is
program
Lily?
in 2 years. Yes.
Lily! She's very famous. Let's give her a shout out.
Lily Sue?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very...
Is she still in the round building?
No,
No.
she moved to near university area.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still in that area, corner.
So I'm curious, when you started your pursuit and your studies of Chinese medicine, did it feel like a homecoming, or did it feel comfortable, or was it just like in the flow? I know for myself, when I'm doing something that I feel like it's a calling or it's something that I've meant to do, even though there's the effort, nothing is a free ride. I mean, you have to put in some work, and you put in effort, but there's a flow to it, and there's something that just, for example, like yesterday I was at my Bharatanatyam class, and I'm doing these things that I've never done before, and that's not to discredit how difficult it is, but it's like I just kind of lock into that pocket like a little stream in the ocean, and it just flows, and I just keep thinking like, why does this feel so right? This feels like home. This feels so familiar. This feels that it's meant to be. Did you feel all of those things or some
Yes.
variation of that?
You ask very good progressional questions.
Thank you.
Because I was challenged with making a decision between architecture and Chinese medicine in terms of how much time to spend in both careers. And there was a time when I was doing both, and during day, then a few patients at night. And I asked myself the question, where would I feel more balanced as a full-time, committing to something full-time?
Right.
And I just saw myself more balanced doing Chinese medicine.
Would the people factor be something to contribute? Because clearly when you are either in the capacity of teaching or treating or healing people, there's a different energy exchange than maybe in architecture, where it's more interacting with things, material items, to create structures. Of course, you have meetings and you have to talk to people who are planning things, but I would think that the people contact is much higher in something like the healing arts.
Yes, it's kind of like working on backstage as opposed to being on the stage.
That's a good metaphor.
Yeah, big.
Oh, smart fella.
I was actually working on a lot of hospitals as a junior architect.
Okay.
And so I was seeing that backstage to front stage transformation.
Interesting. So, in addition to your studies in Chinese medicine, you have written pretty extensively. I remember seeing this tome that you created. Tell us about that.
Well, those are in an effort mainly for understanding. They're self-study projects, but I share my notes with anyone who wants to read.
Fascinating.
So, like for instance, I wrote the first text, AccuSource, studying for the board exams. And I did well.
Do you see that project moving into publication if there was the interest in it?
It is
I mean,
published.
I always feel pained when there's like a source of energy and maybe or information, and maybe it's not it's not shared.
Well, they're published in
access.
ebook format.
Okay.
They're on Lotus Space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, so did you hear that? Lotus Space. If you're interested in these texts, you can follow up in
.com.
.com, lotusspace.com. We'll put that on the site. Okay.
Text page.
In addition to the writing, you've done a lot of video and movie-based projects. Can you tell us about that? We'll have to have you show some of that later.
Well, that's just, again, more knowledge pursuit, trying to understand the truth of our world better. And even if those truths are ugly, we can diagnose the problem or diagnose the disorder, disease, and remedy the situation with some kind of harmonic balance.
I'm gonna just throw out a question in complete left field here. So, from my limited understanding, you would do a diagnosis based on every patient, and then it's not a fixed thing, even though there might be something that's progressive or that you're treating. Each time someone comes in, you're dealing with that, what your body is reflecting at that moment in time, and the body really just being kind of a mirror of what's going on energetically or emotionally, what have you, psychically. Woes. That being said, do you think there's the possibility where a community as a whole can be affected or afflicted with a type of malaise? Can there be community-based depression? I mean, let's say 9/11 is a very easy thing to cite, or if there's, economic woes, do you find that collectively people start to manifest similar symptoms and it's a bigger picture than just the individual? I'm just curious.
Yes, I think there are layers of patterns, energy patterns and diagnoses to look at. So there are some that are more acute and some that are more chronic, but they're all interwoven.
Do you think, at what point does something become accepted as a norm? So let's say we're in this realm where everyone thinks that if you have the symptoms of what they call ADHD, or
which is a psychiatric diagnosis, which
right.
has not been scientifically validated.
So when does something become considered normal or average? Or let's take Asperger's syndrome, and there's a whole spectrum to that, and again, this is a psychological thing, or something like fibromyalgia and overactive nerves or sensitivity to touch and sensations and light. When does something become an actual norm, or when does it become just something that a construct of the drug company? I mean, I know there's 10 questions right there, but you can just riff on any of them.
Okay, I think you're referring to more commonality than normal, because normal would be perfection. Normal is non-being through optimal health.
Okay.
So something that's common, a common disorder, or an ailment that's common, I think that's what you're saying. That's a different story. And I think there are common disorders, definitely, like stress, for instance.
Right. So, a lot of people have different ways of dealing with stress, but coming from your background, you had shared with earlier about the oregano and the glass, using glass for your vessels, for
Yes.
drinking fluids. What are some basic common things that people can do to just maintain their health? I mean, I think most people are aware, yes, there's your sun exposure and your meat intake or lack thereof, and getting good sleep, exercising. Those are kind of obvious things. I mean, if you don't know those things, you might have been living under a rock. But what would you add to those kind of basic things?
Well, definitely fresh air and enough sunlight. Those are important. Not too much, not too little.
So vitamin D. My mother, if she's watching this, she's going to be so happy, because she's a huge proponent of you need to go into the sun and you have to get the vitamins and it's good for your well-being. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. For instance, if you, as far as the light, or
yeah, whatever is the healing component.
yeah, I would like to get on the sleep thing, because
Okay.
I think an important one. A lot of people in this culture go to bed late, and they miss the serotonin window. So if they can get to bed by 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. and they're actually asleep during those hours,
Right.
they get the serotonin injection naturally in their body.
So just
It's
for our
the happy
viewers who are
drug.
unaware, yeah, the serotonin, it's a chemical created within the brain. Everybody's body has the capacity to varying degrees or levels. When it's imbalanced, this is when things start to just kind of spiral downhill.
Yes.
So what it is the restorative sleep is what you're saying, in that window between 10 to 2, which is actually easy to remember because that's when you're supposed to avoid the sun, the direct sunlight. So it's the flip side in the evening.
Right.
Your body has this ability to repair itself, more or less.
Yes, and it gets in contact with the earth. The human being merges with the earth in terms of the proper circadian rhythms.
Okay.
You know, understanding the light rhythms that hit the earth.
This is why
Certain
when people
times.
travel, they have jet lag. But something I think is interesting is you can actually induce jet lag even if you're at home, if you're up late at night or on the computer or what have you. So you can trip your own body clock or fool it or mess it up.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So,
And therefore, if you get to bed early, and you can wake up earlier and practice your breathing exercises
okay.
or watching the breath, meditation.
Ooh, okay. So, meditate on that, friends, because we have to take the second break. But think of ways that you can try to get that window of serotonin flowing. 10 to 2. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I'm Jay Fidel. That's Sharon Moriwaki of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum. And every Wednesday we have Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. We've been doing it for some time now, and we have some fantastic guests on there, unbelievable guests who give us insight into what is going on in a very complex, sometimes very confusing, sometimes very disappointing area of progress in the state. So we love doing this. We love meeting them. We love talking to them. We love having their ideas out on the table. So maybe, just maybe, we can all make some sense of what's going on. Sharon, what do you think?
I think that's absolutely correct. We enjoy ourselves meeting with all these people and hearing about the energy and the state of clean energy, and hopefully we advance clean energy for the state. So it's terrific. Join us. Come
Okay,
join
it's
us.
every Wednesday. Okay, Wednesday is Energy Day. Every
Energy
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
4 to 5 p.m. Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, here on ThinkTech Hawaii.
Energy
We'll see you
Wednesday.
there.
Aloha and welcome back. This is The Art of Life. I'm your host, Willow Chang Leon. We're broadcasting live every Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. in the heart of Honolulu. If you cannot just kick back and watch TV while you're at work, lo and behold, we live forever. We have immortality on YouTube, and I've taken liberties of archiving all of those and putting them on the Art of Life page on Facebook. So what I do on a Friday night, it might shock you, is I watch my own show. I watch the show that I tape, and I listen again to what my guests have to say, and try to follow up and give you guys some fun little things on the page, whether they're web addresses or links to events happening around town. So I try to keep it as interactive and current as possible. I encourage you to check it out, click like, send it to your friends, whether you live here in Hawaii or abroad. We strive to keep it pono. Our guest is Michael Hamilton, and right before the break we were discussing a couple of things that you can do at home to increase your health, right? I guess this is kind of almost like your version of Dr. Oz, but we're not selling any products, there's no tie-ins. These are seemingly simple things which are often deceptively simple because they do take an element of discipline, and you're creating a practice. So the first you had mentioned was trying to get to bed to get the serotonin window flowing from 10 to 2, which therefore gets the circadian rhythms going, which usually means you'll be able to get up with ease earlier so you can do breathing exercises. So can you elaborate on these? Is this the same as like pranayama that you find in yoga practices, or is it a hybrid or something similar?
I think it's the responsibility of the individual to find what practice works for them.
I agree.
But watching the breath is the important
Okay.
part of it, because from 3 to 5 a.m. is the hour of the lung.
Okay.
so that the energy is present there at the lung.
Is
and
this
it's a fresh,
why-
young energy. It's like a child.
Interesting. 3 to 5.
A
Is this
tiger.
why people are up at 4 for chanting or meditation in various practices?
Considered the optimal time, right at dawn, right before the sun energy hits the earth,
Okay.
at that point where they live.
Does that change with the seasons?
It does,
Okay.
slightly, yes. But it's pre-dawn,
Okay.
yeah, pre-dawn. But you can start towards the 5 o'clock, you can start towards the end.
For a lot of people, when they hear meditation, I think they have a fixed idea that you're sitting in lotus, you're connected with the ground, maybe you're saying Om, you're breathing. Obviously, you have to breathe, whether you're meditating or not. You have no choice in the matter. But having a mindful breath, creating that awareness. I think for some people, they get very nervous about that because they think of themselves as active people, or they haven't found a way to transition into that seated meditation. Does it have to be seated? Because there's all kinds of meditation. It could be moving meditation or a walk.
Just
or
standing in place is
standing
fine.
in place? Okay.
Or even laying down for some people, as long as the spine is straight and the neck is pulled up.
Okay.
But I think that sitting or standing is probably better than laying down.
Okay.
Another benefit with dawn is if people are sometimes, when they meditate, they have trouble sitting still,
Mhm.
or they could even be afraid of the darkness or the light, or the silence.
Mhm.
But just sitting still and listening to the day
Unfold.
gently grow,
Yeah, definitely.
and it's very reassuring.
Those birds are very talkative. That's what at
Yes.
least the birds in my neighborhood are they're just chattering.
And by the hour of the dragon, it's really loud. Cars, all kinds of buzzing noises,
Yeah, it's remarkable.
the white noise.
The white
Or
noise
what
of
is it, the
life.
gray noise, the brown noise, white noise.
Okay, sounds good. So we have sleep, we've gone into breathing practice. You talked to us about water. Can you follow back on oregano oil, the purpose of that? What purpose does it serve? I'm unfamiliar with this.
It's just a great cleanser,
Mhm.
Purified water, that's another important factor.
Would lemon also fit into that? I mean,
Yeah, in its right, in its appropriate function. Yeah, it's lemon. Vitamin C tends to kill viruses on contact, so that's why lemon is so good.
It is. It is good. What else would you recommend? Anything? I know diet is something that's so personal, but is there something that is as close to one size fits all that people can try to introduce into their diet and see if it works for them?
Yes, I'd recommend food as whole as possible,
Mm-hmm.
Organic, and all of the no's included, no GMOs, no aspartame, for instance, none of that. Keep it as clean as possible, and as I guess lighter is also good because it helps. If you're less full, the energy can move more freely. The more bloated you become,
It's
the
just
harder.
sluggish. How about this idea of
But satisfied, but nourished.
I hate to say skipping meals because it sounds so bad, but there's monitored fasting or eating meals and then kind of having less to eat, or I mean, this is a whole science unto itself. Trying to fit it in right now is ridiculous, but I'm just asking because some people, this idea that not only eating less, but maybe you eat 3 days in a row, you're not gorging on food, but then one day you kind of like lay off and then you return back to it, like having this ebb and flow. Is that something that you think people would
Yeah, fasting
entertain?
has its place. It can be good in terms of detoxing. If there's too much accumulation in the body, then the body naturally wants to not eat. If the spleen is deficient, has trouble digesting complex foods, rich foods, sweet foods, then it may be beneficial to eat less or eat hot foods that are easier for the spleen to digest, like hot soup.
Right.
like a juk, a rice juk, or a pho, vegetarian pho. Something easy to digest.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
No MSG though.
Yeah.
And a lot of things have MSG out there.
You have to be very vigilant and ask.
And restaurants do not know the answer. They say there's no MSG, but there's MSG in a lot of these products, a lot of the meats that are used.
Interesting. Monosodium glutamate. This stuff is the food of the devil. It really is. It's pretty
It's a
rank.
neurotoxin.
It's nasty.
Not good for the intestines. What affects the intestines affects the brain.
Talk to us about tea.
Tea.
Yeah,
Herbal tea?
herbal tea.
Herbal medicine.
All that good stuff.
Yes. Well, the modalities of Chinese medicine. We talked about the qigong, the acupuncture,
Right.
herbal medicine, the medical massage, tui na, and the nutritional therapy. So herbal tea is very good. Many kinds of herbal teas, thousands of formulas, which...
I want to ask you also, we just don't have enough time. That's always the
So
case. So I
much
know we're going to have you again.
info.
The importance of Qigong is moving the energy. Is there something, people tend to spend a lot of time in seated positions in front of computers. It's just almost impossible to escape in this modern age. Is there something people could do when they're sitting at their desks to kind of gently hit the restart button, is what I'm trying to say. Something that
Yes.
energetically they could do with
Very
their
good.
hands or with their spine or how they're sitting.
I would recommend to not work very hard, especially at things their heart is not into. I would recommend frequent breaks. I mean, at least once an hour for at least 5 minutes of just break.
Yeah.
But I would recommend much more than that. Like perhaps the average human could work 3 hours a week, and they can play for the rest of the time.
Are you running for office?
But
Are you
we
French?
we work hard in that 3 hours as a community, on a community level.
It's true. I read this, I think 2 weeks ago in the New York Times. They said that if people worked for 45-minute stretches and then took 15-minute breaks and they had shorter work days, not only were they happier, they were actually far more productive. They did more work because it was focused, and then they also had time off to just uncoil and unwind, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's something that should definitely be looked into.
Unfortunately, it would seem that this method won't occur until the energy resource completely shifts to a free energy resource. So people can actually have the time and the freedom to do less work because they don't have to pay for it. The energy,
Yeah.
the petroleum,
Ooh.
and everything that is
Linked to
priced
that.
linked to it.
Yeah. Wow, that's a huge thing that we must come back to. In fact, everything you've discussed, and we will have Michael Hamilton back.
Oh, thank
We've
you.
run out of time, which is always such a pickle. It drives me bananas. Can I
It's a
say
fast
another
hour.
fruit? But I want our viewers to know how they can get in touch with you. So lotusspace.com for books, class information, all those good things. You have a clinic, Plum Blossom Clinic, which is in the university area if they want to seek treatment, healing. You also teach Qigong, and that's at the foot of Diamond Head. Are you still there?
The class has been suspended for just the time.
Just for the time period. But if
But
they're
it's
interested,
going to be on St. Louis Heights, probably in the morning, Friday mornings.
I would like to throw this out there for our viewers that if this is something you're interested in, every person who teaches, myself included, is that we're always open and willing to adapt to having private or semi-private classes. And so for some people, that's a much better fit. You get us all to yourself, and we can work with you one-on-one or with a group of people that you feel comfortable learning with. So never say never. There's always an option and something to consider. But Michael Hamilton, thank you so much.
Oh,
We've
thank
got to
you,
have you
Willow.
again because there's a lot of things that we've only just got the tiniest tip of the iceberg there. So we'll have you back again. Thank you for spending time with us, and happy solstice.
Oh, happy solstice.
Yay! Anything that we should do in particular to celebrate the sun?
Meditation.
Meditation. Okay. Meditate on that, friends. We'll see you next week. Our guest is going to be Catherine, who's running for office. Stay tuned. Aloha.